But obviously, the big story remains Iran, and that includes Donald Trump's lashing out first at his Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, and then, of course, having her lie yet again and to come into the good graces of Donald Trump. Yesterday, ranting against the press in front of the foreign press, calling CNN, the New York Times, MSNBC scum, very presidential. Just reflect for a few minutes on what you see from what happened in Iran, including some of the people I tend to respect, giving him relatively high marks for how he handled it and Israel, but also just how he did it.
Yeah.
Damning story by Maggie Haberman in the New York Times, and how he's reacting now, and where we might go from here.
First, I'll say that my newsletter is not a Substack.
Oh,
so
sorry.
just go to davidcorn.com if you're interested.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, this is what I've been thinking about Iran. You remember, our old friend Donald Rumsfeld, known unknowns and unknown unknowns and all that. But, with Trump, you can't know anything because you can't trust anything he says. And we have a system in which intelligence is created by the intelligence community, and it's given to our elected leaders who are, sometimes share it with us, or they at least they're supposed to say they're basing their decisions on the intelligence they're getting, as best they can. In this instance, we had the intelligence community come out and say in March that Iran was not pursuing a nuclear weapons program. Yes, it had a civilian program with highly enriched uranium and was something that people who care about nuclear proliferation were right to be worried about. But here's the intelligence community saying right now they're not pursuing turning that civilian program into a weapons program. And that was not just Tulsi Gabbard's testimony before Congress in March. It was in what's called the annual worldwide threat assessment that the intelligence community puts out basically every spring. So it's the assessment of the entire intelligence community. It's not just what Tulsi Gabbard says. And then all of a sudden, Trump seems to indicate he wants some negotiations to deal with Iran, after ripping up the results of the last negotiations we had, the agreement that Obama reached. He basically wanted to replay that and get the same deal. And he says we're going to give him 2 weeks or so to come to the table and see if we can make some progress. And then the next day, he launches an attack, or 2 days later. At the same time, people were asking him and members of his administration, is there new evidence, new intelligence that they're moving ahead with a nuclear weapons program? Hegseth and others say no. They don't have anything new to report. J.D. Vance, after the attack, goes on Meet the Press, and he's asked by Kristen Welker, do you trust the intelligence assessments of your own intelligence community? He says, yes, but we also trust our own way of seeing things. In other words, they just went on a hunch, or they took maybe Israeli intelligence, which is something that I wouldn't trust these days with Bibi Netanyahu in charge of the intelligence community there. So we, the public, are left with really no clear facts, or even the assurance that they're generating clear facts to undergird their decision making. And so when Trump then comes out and says total obliteration, and General Dan Kane comes out and says severely damaged, and then there are reports that they might have moved their uranium before the attack, the highly enriched uranium, and then the question is, do they have some centrifuges elsewhere where they could so did they totally obliterate the program? Did they set it back a few months, maybe a few years, maybe longer? We just don't know. And there's nothing that Trump or Peter Hegseth can tell us that we can trust. So we're in this, we in the public are in the impossible position of not being able to evaluate the the results of this very dramatic operation that might have been, that people argue was unconstitutional, violated the War Powers Resolution. And it's kind of not a surprise. Donald Trump, as we know, is an inveterate liar and can't be trusted at all. But now he's kind of ignoring, fabricating the intelligence, not miscasting it, not paying attention to it. And you have to think, if you're an intelligence analyst and you're asked to analyze this attack, if your findings may not coincide with what Donald Trump and Peter Hegseth and others are saying publicly, how courageous must you be to put that in the bureaucracy and shoot it up the line? I mean, we know during the first Trump presidency that when intelligence analysts came forward with intelligence saying that Russia, which had interfered in the 2016 election and helped Trump win, was messing again in American elections, Trump didn't want to hear it. And they were told, stop doing this. There are whistleblowers and others that have come forward to say, don't do this. And when they brought their findings to Congress, Trump got visibly angry and yelled at people running these agencies. So imagine now, if your job is to do bomb damage assessment, or more importantly, to assess the nuclear weapons program of Iran, and you thought, well, I think they may have moved things here. I think they could do this then. I mean, you'd have to be very foolish to, put that in writing and send it up to the White House. So there's a tremendous chilling factor that Trump has created with the intelligence community. And you saw it with Tulsi Gabbard, which you referenced. She came out, said there wasn't evidence of that they were proceeding towards a nuclear program. And then as soon as Trump said, I don't care what she says, she comes on and says, oh, the president and I are on the same page. More fidelity to their leader than to the intelligence community that she's supposed to lead. So I think, we're in this black hole of Trump's, land of falsehoods. And it's just going to make it very hard to have any constructive conversations about what the raid achieved and what needs to happen afterwards.